Welcome back to the Delivering More platform, folks. I'm your host, Ben Alkire. Thank you so much for consuming the content morning, afternoon, and evening. We appreciate it, as always. If you could, hit that subscribe button down below. That's going to help us out more you could ever know. I have another wonderful Meet the Team to bring to you folks today. I have with us another CSR from our delivery operations team. Let's get to know Heather. Busier day out on the floor. Did it feel busy today or no?
Yes, it did.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I already know it's coming.
Yeah, Wednesday, right.
Wednesday is the day. And that's what we tell our drivers too. Keep yourself available on the app because Tuesday through Thursday, we're real busy, but watch on Tuesday because they're coming Wednesday. So, yeah, it's really busy.
What is busy for you? Just a lot of text, a lot of calls. What makes you feel busy?
Oh, the calls, because I am a big call taker on the floor. So I take a lot of calls. I average over 200 plus calls a week. So that's, what's busy for me is how many calls am I getting? How many drivers am I going to be talking to today? And I try to talk to them through text messaging a lot, but I think it's more personal to talk to them on the phone and be able to help them better if I'm talking to them versus waiting for responses back and forth in the text inbox.
Yeah, it just be like a little quicker too.
Yeah.
And things don't get like misconstrued and you're not like getting confused on what's going on. You can just like talk through it much quicker. I'd agree with that. I think calling's probably way easier.
It is a lot easier. It is. It's especially when they're in the middle of a live delivery and there's a snafu. I mean, you got to be able to help real quick, and if you're waiting on them to respond in the text message inbox or they're waiting on you to respond, a lot of times what I've noticed is the issue gets resolved by the time you get back to them in the text, and it's like, oh, then you don't feel like you were really any help to them, so I prefer taking the calls.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You like saying like if they get to the store and the restaurant doesn't have an order, so I'm like, if you don't get back to it in minutes, like 5 minutes, they already like have basically problem solved it with the restaurant, or they can't find the customer. Like by that time, the customer's reached back out, or they've been able to get in contact. So you weren't necessarily able to be of as much help as you feel like you should have been.
Exactly, that's exactly it.
Okay, so calling or texting, that's a good segue. We'll do a little icebreaker. We'll start with a little this or that. So this will be Heather, this or that, and we'll start out. Do you prefer, you're outside of work, this is all outside of work in terms of context, so would you prefer calling or texting?
Calling. Yes, absolutely. I'm old school. I grew up with rotary phones that were connected to the wall, with a 10-foot long cord. So I prefer calling. It's more personable that way, I feel.
Yeah, my first phone in my house it wasn't like the circle dial, but it was definitely a phone attached to the wall with like the cord and everything. So we're not too far off base there. I have some familiarity. What about in terms of how you get your day started or end? Would you prefer early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings. I prefer early mornings. Late nights no longer exist for me. I like to go to bed early because I think it has to do with my age. I'm sorry to say. I used to be a night owl, Ben. I did in my younger days, but no, I prefer early mornings now. Okay. I like to get up and get out and get things done, get things moving, and just be done with the day, by the end of by dinner time,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a early in bed person. Like,
Are you?
I'm a slow mover in the morning, but like I'm also like when I basically work, go to the gym, take my dog for a walk if it's nice outside, eat, and then I'm in bed by like 7 p.m., 7:30. I usually don't fall asleep till like probably like 11:30, but I get in bed so early.
It's comfortable in bed.
Yeah, I love it.
I know. I love sitting in my bed and just watching a movie or laying there, wrapped up in my comforter and reading or watching a good movie or, something like that. And just relaxing. It's relaxing. It's home. It's comforting. So I totally get it.
You mentioned something else there. We can ask another this or that about in terms of enjoyment, entertainment. Would you prefer books or movies?
Movies. I
Okay.
used to be a big book reader, but I haven't had a lot of time because I pick up a lot of overtime. I'm here all the time, so I don't get a chance to read as much. I'm a big movie person. I'm constantly like finding movies to watch, and Tubi has become my rabbit hole, because I'm finding all these great movies on there, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and they're free. So, but no, I prefer movies.
Okay. Do you have if you can? I know I put people on the spot when I ask this, but I have to ask it. If you had one favorite movie of all time, do you know what that would be?
I do.
What is it?
Oh God, you're gonna laugh.
Well, I know what it is.
I hope so. I hope you do. It's The Sound of Music.
Oh, no.
Yes, big time. That is my first favorite. And I'd have to say my second favorite would be American Gangster.
Yeah, Denzel.
Yes.
That's a good movie.
Yes, I love that movie. And I find he's such a well-rounded actor, and he makes it seem so, he like really made it real. I mean, it was of course a true story,
Right.
but I mean, he really did a great job in that film, and I'm fascinated with American Gangsters, period.
Same.
So I love, watching movies about him, watching documentaries, Sammy the Bull, I watch a lot of his YouTube videos, and, so I'm fascinated. That's my second favorite movie.
Okay, I can agree with you that one. Yeah, Frank Lucas. That's a hell of a story. I'm the same too in terms of like things I find entertaining. I'm a big like crime, gangster, like that's my stick. Like I love like heist movies too. The
Oh,
Ocean's movies
yeah.
are super big for me. There's a new Kevin Hart movie on Netflix that came out a couple months ago. That was a good heist movie. But anything like crime related, I feel like really gets my wheels turning.
Oh yeah, The Departed. That's
Yeah,
another great film. Oh my God, that movie.
The twist at the end of that, I think I didn't understand what actually happened in that movie until I watched it like 3 times. I was
Really?
so confused
Yeah.
by like the ending when he like find out that Jack is actually the rat the whole time, and then I also feel like, is it Matt Damon and DiCaprio? Is that the other two?
Yeah.
I feel like they look kind of similar. So I like kept getting them confused like throughout the movie, like who was who. And I couldn't like wrap my brain around what was happening.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It took me a few times to watch that movie too before it really like sunk in, and to figure it out. I'm like, wow, there were so many different things coming at you and so many different twists, and you're like, who is who?
Yeah,
who's
it was
doing
tough.
what? And it was a good movie though. Oh
Yeah,
man.
very good. I agree with that. What how about in terms of if you okay, I got a good one. You mentioned you're an early morning person.
Yeah.
In terms of how you get ready for the day, would you prefer hot coffee or iced coffee?
Oh, hot coffee. I have to have my first cup of coffee has to be hot coffee. The iced coffee is an afternoon treat for me. Yeah, I'm a coffee drinker, big time coffee drinker, but definitely hot coffee first thing in the morning.
Are we black coffee, cream, sugar? What do we got mixing up in there?
Actually, just flavored creamer.
Okay.
That's all I put in my coffee. Now iced coffee is a little different.
It got a little complicated with the iced coffee.
Yeah, it has to be sweet. That's terrible to say. I know it's so bad for you, but it has to be sweet and it has to have a lot of ice. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I love asking that question. It's always interesting. What about I'll give one more for you. We're in the food delivery game, right? So I like asking this question. I've been asking it to drivers lately, but I don't think I've asked it to anyone on Meet the Team, so you might be the first. If you're getting food, would you prefer to go pick it up or have it delivered?
I would prefer, personally, my husband is going to laugh at this, but I prefer it to be delivered and he prefers to go pick it up. and he prefers me to go pick it up. And I'm like, why? There's so many delivery services out there. Why do we even have to bother? That's what they're getting paid for. Let's have them do it. They enjoy it, right? So let them deliver it to us. That's how I feel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a pickup guy too. I feel like it's like a monetary thing, and also I feel like it's quicker a lot of times to just go pick it up anyway.
My husband would agree with you on that. Absolutely would agree with you on that. But me personally, I just find other things to do until it gets delivered.
Okay. I appreciate it. That's a little this or that with Heather. Thank you so much for indulging me in that. So we're here to learn a little bit more about you. We talked a little dog ownership here pre-podcast, but I want to know, in terms of earliest stages of your life, where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Massillon and raised in a little town called Brewster.
Okay.
And I went to a really small school. It was a real small school, not a very big graduating class. But I was raised in Brewster. We moved around a lot, but we stuck to that area. And then I, as an adult, moved to Columbus for a couple of years. And that was great. Columbus is an awesome place. There's so much to do there, especially for young people. But ultimately, I decided to come back, and I moved to Massillon. So that's where I live now, is in the city.
Okay. I just bought a home behind Mark's on Amherst.
Did you?
Right on the edge of
Great
Massillon and Jackson
neighborhood.
Township. Yeah, I'm right on the edge now. Technically Massillon, so I got hit with that city tax.
Yeah.
Went from nothing in Jackson Township, now I got the city tax. Don't love that.
No.
But the neighborhood is good. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful neighborhood over there. It really is. And so you're right close to Mark's, huh?
I'm literally it's 50 yards.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
I just like that Key Bank is right there, whatever. That's like, if you take that entrance to Key Bank, it goes into my neighborhood right there.
Oh, see, that's great neighborhood.
Yeah, like I can get to Krause's right there in
Oh,
35
good
seconds.
Food. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sold.
I know.
amazing.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
What about growing up? Did you have a first job growing up? How old?
did.
What did you do?
I was 15, and I worked at a pizza shop. So yeah, I only worked there for about 6-7 months, but I made pizzas, and then my grandparents were like, your schoolwork is starting to suffer. You can't work here anymore. So they made me quit. But as soon as I turned 18, I went and got another job, and I've been working ever since. But 15 was my first job.
Is that pizza place still around? Is it still open? Okay.
No, it was a little pizza shop in a little town called Wilmot, and it's no longer there. So yeah.
Okay. And then, so you said you got a job out of high school, or were you still in high school?
No,
for
it
the
was
second
out of
job?
high school for the second job. I became a nurse's aide.
Okay.
I worked in nursing homes, and I did home health care, and I did that for quite a while, a long time, actually. I really enjoyed working in home care, but I did not enjoy working in the nursing homes. Terrible environment for people. But yeah, that's what I did the majority of my young adult life.
That's interesting. I was like, when you bring that up, first thing that comes to my mind is my mom's mom, my grandmother. She was in a nursing home and then hospice, and she was still in the home my mom grew up in before she moved out. We moved her into Green, is like where the nursing home was, right off there I guess, is that Wales that goes into Green, kind of?
Yeah.
If you keep going north, she lived in a nursing home right off there, and I feel like she kind of enjoyed it there. She had like some activities to do,
really
like painting
depends.
and stuff like that. But yeah, you always hear about like the culture of nursing homes, and it can be like problematic sometimes.
It can be, and I worked in some problematic nursing homes, and but it really depends. I mean, when it comes to home care for, or nursing care for your elder family members, the bottom line is you get what you pay for, and if you don't pay much for it, you're not going to get quality care for your family. But that's the truth. You get what you pay for. And it really depends on where you're at, too. What, town or city or, it just really depends.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting. What about, you said you did that for a while. So like how are like 10, 15, 20 years?
10
like
years,
10
I would say I did that. And then I also had a second job as a cashier for a grocery store. So I worked that part-time too while I was doing nursing home work. And then it wasn't until it was like the year 2000 I got my first call center job.
Okay, so you've been in the call center gig for a while.
Yes.
Okay, that's
23
interesting.
years.
Wow, that's impressive. I was gonna say too. I worked at that Marks I live behind now. That was one of my first jobs.
Oh, really?
I worked there
Okay.
stocking shelves, and then also worked as a cashier later on. So grocery store life is kind of interesting too. It's kind of like monotonous work though sometimes. So but the time goes by fast. I feel like,
especially when you're working the register.
Yeah.
And then you get to meet a bunch of different people until your boss tells you that you're talking too much. It's hi, how are you? Have a great day. Bye. That sort of thing. But yeah, it's a great way to make money. It is. It's a good part-time job type thing.
Yeah, I think it's like an easy early entry job for,
It
for
is.
kids, for like a high school kid. It's not a bad job to have early on. I'd agree with that. But the call center stuff. So you started around 2001 then 2000?
2000 was my first call
and
center
that was
job.
that in Canton, Ohio somewhere?
Yes, it was for a company. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, you say whatever you want.
Okay. It was for Ameridial. I was doing telemarketing for the March of Dimes. And then they saw potential in me and decided to cross-train me in other projects and other call type jobs, and also data entry, that sort of thing. So I worked there for a year, 1 year exactly, and then I moved on to Diebold.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was at Diebold for 5 years, and then I went to another call center after that. And I worked in quite a few call centers. I would say Diebold, I was there 5, and then I worked at AWP, Area Wide Protective. You've probably seen their
The
trucks
security
around.
stuff?
Yeah, their traffic control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I worked there.
I think I was thinking of AEP. Is that the security company? ADP.
Yeah. No, AWP does traffic control for like construction companies, and you'll see their trucks around everywhere. But I worked there for 4 years. And then I worked at Dollar Bank in the loan servicing department. And then I went to ARE. And that was interesting. It was a I didn't work in the factory. I worked in the customer service department, but it wasn't a call center job. It was, I worked in their fleet department where I did paperwork and emails all day, and I hated it because I'm a talker and I like to talk to people and help them. And there I worked with 2 other ladies, and it was not a very friendly environment.
A little snooty in there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I came here.
Okay. I appreciate that timeline of things. That's right where I wanted to get. So I do actually greatly appreciate you walking us through that. So in terms of getting here at DeliverThat, how do you find your way here? Was it through a job board or like a friend or recommendation, or how did you find your way to DeliverThat?
A friend who doesn't even work here told me about it. I was working at ARE at the time in that customer service position, and I was working part-time in another call center, an answer service. And she applied here once, and she said, why don't you go and apply for DeliverThat? And of course, I didn't know what DeliverThat was. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah, right.
And she told me about it. And so I went on Indeed, and boom, there you guys were. And I was like, oh, wow, So I put in my resume, and the next thing you know, I got a call from Vic. So, yeah, it was really good. It was really cool. She couldn't believe it, that I actually went through with it, and I'm like, what do you mean? You told me about it, And so I'm happy. I'm happier for it.
Hell yeah. And I think, man, I always forget to write this down, but I think your anniversary date is
February 13th.
February 13th. Okay. I was going to say March 13th, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
February 13th.
Yeah.
So we're just past a year and what, month and a half, 2 months or something at this point. So congrats on a year
Thank
at DeliverThat.
you.
It's an unbelievable thing to accomplish. Were you initially hired as a CSR, or what was your title during the interview process and then when you got brought on?
During the interviewing process, I was interviewing to be a hybrid person for driver relations and the CSR role. But in my interview, they asked me if I preferred emails or if I preferred phone calls. And I, of course, said phone calls. And I excelled at the phone calls. So they decided to keep me at the phone calls. And that's okay, So they decided, like I said, I was interviewed and hired as a hybrid role, but they kept me in the CSR role.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. So I'm happy you got to stick it out there. So we kind of talked about early on what busy feels like to you, like taking all those calls, answering people, helping the drivers out. Do you enjoy that part of your day? Do you enjoy being able to be there for drivers kind of in their time of need and when they need help?
Absolutely. I love it. I love talking to the drivers. I love helping them. I mean, and I really mean that. In fact, sometimes I find it really frustrating when you can't help them. If they're asking you something and you don't know the answer to it and you try to find the answer to it, but you have to pass them off to somebody else. That's what's frustrating, is when you've helped them as far as you can help them, and then you're like, but I really got to pass you off to this person, but that's okay. That's okay, because then it's on to the next driver that I can help. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I think in a manner of speaking, you feel like you just didn't, like you did your job, but you feel like you could have done a little more in the scenario that you weren't able to. So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. What in terms of like building the relationships with drivers and everything, do you feel like you have drivers who call in and you like recognize their voice instantly, or like you see their name pop up and you're like excited to talk to them again, or like check in on what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. I have drivers that ask to speak to me all the time, and I know who they are and they know who I am. And when they call in, they're always excuse me, they're always asking, well, how about, your dogs? How are your dogs doing? Because even though, I talk to different drivers, and so many different drivers, especially during our lunch rush, I have that ability to build that rapport with them really quickly. And on our downtime, I'm able to talk to them and spend a little more time with them. So you get to know them too, and you get to know a little more about their life, and they get to know a little more of your life, all while you're waiting on Easy Cater to answer.
And I feel like something else you brought up too early on is like you work in the overtime hours and stuff. You work sometimes like those later shifts where like you actually do have some time maybe to like kind of just like banter back and forth. You don't have to be like, hey, I got to take this next call. You can be like, oh yeah, like, hey, what's going on with you? Oh, this is what's going on with me, kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And on the weekends too. Yeah. It's not that busy on the weekends. So you get to know them a little better, and find out what's going on in their world.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love to hear stuff like that. I hope they do as well. What about in terms of DeliverThat? So we said, you've been here a little over a year now. So you got were you here? You would have been here for the Q1 outing last year then too, right? So you did Q1, 2, 3, and 4?
I did. Yes. Blast.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. I've never worked for a company that's ever done anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, for their employees.
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily remember when we started doing that. So we've always had a Christmas party. I know that for a fact since I've been with the company in 2018. We've done a Christmas party every year, and I think I don't know if last year was the first year we did it every quarter or something along those lines, but that was something I was really kind of a proponent of. That I felt like it just
really.
I always initially this is something I've never even brought up to some of the newer employees, which I'm more than happy to navigate. But initially my idea was, and I think I maybe even asked this early on, was would people basically be willing to give like $5 or $10 out of every paycheck of theirs, and we'd put it into like an employee pool, and then that would be there to pay for like Valentine's Day parties or St. Patty's Day in-office parties or 4th of July. Like we have a cookout, and like that pool of money would be like how we supplement being able to host those parties. And obviously DeliverThat, being, you know, blowing smoke up ourselves here for a second, is just courteous enough to actually just be like, hey, no, we'll just foot the bill for whatever. So then it kind of took on a life of its own, where now we're just like hosting events and bringing everyone out, whether it's families, plus ones, this, that, and the third. So yeah, it's been great. It's fun. It's fun to plan them, but it's definitely got a little more difficult as we're getting bigger and everything. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's always a good time.
I love it. I love spending time with my DeliverThat family. I love it. And I've never, ever experienced a company that cares so much about their employees and wants to do good for their employees. I mean, that makes us feel like, for me personally, it makes me feel like, okay, they really care about me, and they really want to get to know me. So I really want to put my best foot forward for them, and help them and do what I can do to be a good employee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And to me, that's kind of what it's always about, because, in our office is super open concept, right? So you guys do talk back and forth, like in between calls, stuff out there a ton, but a lot of the conversation even still is kind of pertinent to work, you know what I mean? Or what's going on with this partner, or this driver, or this restaurant, this, that, and the other. So like having those moments of time outside of work where we still all come together, you talk about family, you talk about your kids, you talk about your pets, you talk about, your husbands, your wives, whoever you're, outside of your family. And I think that's what it's just always about, kind of building a further bond where like, we're not just employees, we're actually friends that just like get to work together.
That's what it feels like too, Ben. It feels like you're working with your friends and family, and that's a great feeling to me. There's a lot of growing happening within the company and within the departments, and I see where we're going with that because I have worked for huge corporate companies before. So I see the idea behind it. I understand it, but nobody's losing that personal touch at the same time. Does that make sense? They're keeping it as personalized as they can still keep it, and make you feel welcomed and needed, and they appreciate you. And that's why I love DeliverThat so much.
Yeah, well, I think everyone would appreciate hearing you say something like that. And obviously, we just brought in, I think this week, 4 new hires, right? So,
so
hopefully they all get acclimated and kind of understand that company culture that we've kind of been developing over the years, and they'll enjoy the time with the company as much as you and I have. So, I'm excited too. I think it's always interesting when new people kind of come in, and we're kind of. I know we have a couple desks that kind of people kind of come and go between, but I mean, we were talking, Aaron and John were here this morning. I think we might be renting out, starting to lease out more like the pathway section moving forward, and expanding the call center to this side of the office now too, or something. So, and Aaron was even talking about maybe blowing that wall out. We blew that first front wall out. Now we might blow that one out too, or something. I don't know. So yeah, we're certainly growing, and there's always gonna be changes. So it's always intriguing. I feel like you could walk in one day and like the office got new carpet, you got a wall that's gone, you got like new faces every day. It's crazy sometimes.
I love it though. I love all the changes. I love it. I acclimate to change very quickly. So that's why I do well in call centers too, I think. And that's why I've stuck it out for so long, because I can change with the change. I can go right along with it. And it's very exciting, to see everything that's going on around me, and to see the new hires, which I'm really excited about. One of my friends got hired.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. She's going to be great. She's going to be a great asset, because she also drove for Uber Eats.
Okay, so she
and
like
and
understands.
DoorDash too. So she understands, and she has call center experience. So she's gonna be just great, and it's gonna, she's gonna fit right in.
Hell
so
yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Hell yeah, yeah, that sounds great. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to know all of them a little bit more. So that'll be always fun. Anything else? I mean, that's really anything else you want to talk about while I have you over here? Anything else you think would be pertinent to discuss while I have your time?
Well, no, I really I was trying to think of a tip for drivers.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that I would suggest, I love the drivers, I really do, but they really need to know their routing rules. Excuse me, Ben. Know the routing rules a lot, because I really think if they study their routing rules and they are more independent of routing themselves, then they would. I think maybe I'm not wording it correctly, but I think they wouldn't be as frustrated waiting on us to help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we get so caught up in helping on live deliveries, and a lot of times we'll get calls or texts about their routes, or if they, asking, will this work? Will that work? Can I do this? And a lot of times when they have their routes and something doesn't, they think that it works, and then routers
Have to come in and like adjust it. Yeah.
yeah, or even remove an order from them. It can be very upsetting. They feel like you're taking money right out of their pockets. And if they I think familiarize themselves with the routing guidelines a little more, I think a lot of that could be prevented. They won't have to wait for us, to give them a yes or a no or maybe answer, and
Yeah, no, I think and Larry was just on the Meet the Team prior to you, and that's something we talked about. Even creating the routing rules was kind of a big step for us, kind of putting in concrete A to Z, like here's why
Right.
this is a thing, here's what you can and can't do, blah blah blah. And then also kind of what I was thinking of while you were saying that was there's also like a time and place to be asking about the routes in general. I feel like sometimes something I hear on the floor often is a driver calling in or texting in like, hey, will this route work for tomorrow? And it's like 11:30 in the heat of the day for
Yeah.
you guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's very difficult for you to segment out in real time, be like, hey, all right, let me take 3 to 5 minutes to look at your route. Does the timing work? Let me pull up Google Maps. Does it work to get to A, B, C, D
Yeah.
while you're supposed to be helping out all these drivers? So in context of things, there also is like a time and place when those conversations should be happening. That's not just something you guys can like willy-nilly on the fly help out with. So there's really a time and
Exactly.
place that those routing questions should be asked, and then also just the guidelines need to be understood.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of drivers get frustrated because also when they have their route set and another job comes in the morning and they accept it and they're calling in saying, hey, I already have my route, but I just accepted this job. Is this going to work? And it's like, not really, but so they just, I think that if they were very familiar with the routing guidelines, that would help them in their decision-making process on whether or not they're going to keep those new offers that come in, and they wouldn't have to spend the time to wait on hold for us to call during lunch rush hour, and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think, understanding any of the guidelines on our platform is probably key to being able to operate as best as possible. So, I think that's a great tip. Heather, I appreciate you coming over here today.
you.
I know you were a little nervous, but I think this went well. It went well, right?
It did. It
Good.
did.
All right.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's always easy. I know some people come over here and think it's going to be like some hardball hitting questions you guys aren't going to be able to answer. I'm like, we're just here to chat it up. So that was great. I think this was just great. I appreciate you spending some time with me. I appreciate the time you spent with everyone at DeliverThat, and we'll see you maybe a year two, meet the team this time next year.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making me feel at ease.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm here to do. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
See you soon, Ben.